put the boots on the ground for that reason, because for so long, I think that this seat has been absent. And I don't say that as a dig to anybody, but I think that it's really easy to get caught up in the inner workings of City Hall and the politics that goes on. And you forget that you are the first line of defense to any resident when it comes to their local government. And that's what I really tried to focus on with my job.
Well, one of the key pieces in your district is Fair Park. As a resident of Dallas, member of the Dallas Historical Society, love Fair Park, always interested, got to go to Enchant Dallas, which is great. So I wanted to see what you think about what's going on with Fair Park since Fair Park First has come on board, and what you see as the opportunities in the future there.
Fair Park is one of the biggest reasons that I ran, actually. So one of former council members in District 7 was a part of a process that started the privatization. And that process didn't go over very smoothly, as you all probably remember. And so I want to just start by saying that because of the long history, because of the context that has to be included of Fair Park's, background of our city, whoever got that bid was in for an uphill battle. And that's just the truth. There was a lot to repair. There was a lot to repair in a very technical way, being specific and we're actually repairing buildings, but there's also a lot to repair from wrongs that had been done with this property for throughout the history of our city. Fair Park First, to me, has been doing an incredible job. I don't think that we could have anybody that would be doing a perfect job. So that's why I think it's important to add that context. The amount of due diligence that has been given to making sure that the community has a stake in the decisions that are made throughout this process, the master plan that went on, that ended up being approved. And I always say this, we approved it and it went through council twice, right? And not one time did we have negative comments signed up. Not one time did it not pass unanimously. And so that to me is not something I can hang my hat on, but really the group, it's the group and the amount of work that they did. And I will tell you as a representative of South Dallas that it's very rare that you have something big get done without there being strong voices on both sides. And so to know that those voices were mitigated so that we didn't hear them at the council level, it means that they were brought to the table. It means that when there were issues with what was going on or input that the community wanted to buy in, Fair Park First really did that work to make sure that they had that opportunity. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of when it comes to the group. And then, of course, you can look at the fact that we just ended the first year in decades that they've been in the black, which is incredible. We've had awesome programming there that has brought record numbers, including something, as you mentioned, Enchant right now. We're having record attendance that I think the last I heard is almost 3 times what the expected attendance was going to be for that. So they've taken to the task. They've brought in some great programming, the Winter Classic, Rolling Stones. We've got Coldplay coming up this spring. And then this summer, we're going to be breaking ground on a parking deck. So actually seeing things move is something that I can't be more happy with.
This is Deconstructing Dallas, Shawn Williams, Ryan Trimble. We're going to take a break so Ryan can look for his Coldplay tickets. But right after we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the issues that Chairman Bazaldua is working on. So hang with us through the break. We'll be right back right after this.
Deconstructing Dallas, Ryan Trimble, Shawn Williams, joined today by Dallas City Councilman Adam Bazaldua, the Baz. Everybody knows him as Baz, or so it seems. Everybody calls you Baz, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. You know, in the restaurant industry, I was always called Chef Baz, and so I just chef got taken off, and I'm totally used to it.
You just shortened it. I like it. That's good.
It's better than having everybody try to pronounce my last name.
I've heard a number of different ways, as I'm sure you have.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Councilman, shortly after the new council was elected earlier this year, you were tapped to serve as the chair of the Quality of Life Arts and Culture Committee. You see a broad spectrum of issues come through your committee. It sounds like perhaps a softball committee, but man, you are dealing with all sorts of issues. So I first want to hear about your kind of your vision for the committee and how you're going to impact, our quality of life here in Dallas. And then hope you share a little bit about some of the issues you've taken on.
Yeah, thank you for the question. When I first got it, I will tell you there's probably a small part of me that was more disappointed than I should have been because I'm like, man, I get my first chairmanship and it's quality of life. But then I talked to who I would consider a mentor, which is Lee Kleinman, and he gave me a perspective that I thought was really important. And he said, every other committee on our council is reactionary. He said, everything that comes up is addressing policy issues and things that need to get fixed. It's things that, and then you have this blank canvas, this slate that actually gets to impact quality of life. You get to be the most proactive committee on the council. And that perspective really opened my eyes to things. I sat down with city manager, sat down with Tristan Hallman, and I wanted to go through some of the ideas that I had and find out, is this more public safety or is this quality of life? Because I think I could have an argument for it. And I heard, across the board, I think that's quality of life. Okay, well, here's this. I think that this could be transportation, but, and so then I started to realize I've got kind of a pretty wide range of acceptable issues to take up, which, just as Lee said, can be things to kickstart change. And that's a lot of why I think that this is such a great committee to chair, on top of the fact that the arts and culture component is something that I'm very passionate about. So, and of course, it goes hand in hand with quality of life. Some of the biggest priorities that I have with quality of life is the short-term rentals was going to be the biggest one. Knew that getting on, it was kind of left in limbo at the committee level whenever I took it over. And so I knew that was going to be a big one. But then there were other issues that I was looking to bring forward, like ban the box. And that's something that we'll see come up through my committee in January. I started looking into the hours of operation for sexually oriented businesses, which has been very controversial. I always seem to find myself right in the middle of those, but that's something that we're working on now, and we'll be taking back up in January at the full council. And so just as you mentioned, it's a wide variety of things that really impact lives, taking up the sidewalk master plan, for instance, taking up anything that happens with the parks systems is extremely important. But then I have a lot of leeway so that I can try to see things get moving that I believe should be. So,
well, having watched every quality of life and short-term rental task force, I have to tip my hat to you, Chairman, on your diligence and your you wield the gavel very well. So,
thank you.
I was going to ask you though, if you could choose, what are the top 2 or 3 issues that, coming up in 2022, what are we going to get done? What are we going to see get done?
Sure. I think that STRs, the short-term rentals, is definitely something that I would like to see get done sooner rather than later. It was taken out of Quality of Life Committee in May of last year. and with the intent of bringing recommendations back 60 days from now. Well, I think, a lot of people can say why. A big problem with why that didn't happen is our every 2-year campaign season. And that was right in the thick of it. So it kind of got put to the back burner, but it's a very important issue. So I'm looking forward to closing that out. We have 2 more task force meetings this January, and then I'll be holding a special called committee meeting, taking public input and collecting the recommendations that were crafted by the task force, and then hopefully getting it on to council at that point. Another one, as I mentioned, was ban the box. It's something that I look forward to continuing pushing for, which is making sure that there is that we prohibit the question in an initial application for employment about previous convictions. And of course, businesses can do background checks and things after the fact, but a lot of times you don't ever get to that point if you're weeded out just from putting that through. So, and my father is a convicted felon, and he has had a very successful career with Frito-Lay now for 35 years, and never would have been given that opportunity had he not gotten the training that he got, the vocational training that he got at Huntsville, but also the opportunity that was given to him by a large corporation like that. And I know that times have changed a lot, but I look at my life and look at the privilege that I was afforded, and it was off of the hard work that my dad did, but it was off of hard work that he did because he was given an opportunity. And I know that isn't the case for everyone when they come out of the system. So this is something that I feel very passionate about. Also, I would say the increase of mental health components. Now, I haven't necessarily taken that up but I promise you, I've been a very loud voice in the background for it. The expansion of Right Care, we have 7 currently on the street. We've funded up to 10. We will have 10 Right Care teams to respond to mental health calls across the city, which should result in us kind of shifting that call volume of mental health calls off of DPD's docket and onto these teams. And then in addition to that, this current fiscal year budget, with our real-time rapid rehousing initiative, we have hired contract of 98 social workers to be a part of the outreach for encampment abatement. So now we are not only focusing on a housing first model, but we are bringing in social work to put in names, instead of just numbers and statistics of how many people accepted resources and how many didn't. Now we have the ability to continue building trust, breaking barriers, and hopefully, penetrating that vagrancy that the issue that exists.
So, Chairman, I want to start or finish up kind of where we started. In the first segment, we talked about your culinary background as a sous chef in town and as an educator. And so I want to get your take on the food scene here in Dallas. I want to know what some of your restaurants, your favorite restaurants are, so I can take a few notes.
Yeah. Well, we are an awesome food city. Let me just say that. I think that we lack a little bit of innovation. It seems like anybody pushes the envelope a little bit, doesn't seem to be as successful here as they do in some of those other markets. But then you see steakhouses that have just been around for 100 years. So it's fun to see where the trends lie. I'll tell you, my experience working for Stephen Pyle specifically just shows how much of a godfather he is in the industry. And it's not just here. At first, when I moved to New York, I said, I thought that him, Dean Faring, Kent Rathbun, they were all, they were local guys. And they are, but they're much more than that. And so so much of the envelope has been pushed by those three individuals in our city.